politics has helped shape the decision of the polity, from conspiracy theories to good old-fashioned comic politics.
These are the result of tomorrow's elections. You have it already.
I am not hungry. If I need appointment, all I need to do is to start praising government.
Plus politics will fill the polls of the country, from friends to frenemies, even strange bedfellows, to clones and stooges. We go beyond the rhetorics and the drama to analyze the story behind the story.
Let everybody come and say. The moment we stop having charlatans occupy political offices, we will curtail hate speech.
Plus politics, not just another political show. It's about putting you, the citizens, in the know. Violent shootings, parallel congresses and loads of drama characterized the APC Congress held over the weekend. And don't vote for PDP and APC again because they have bad antecedents, former INEC Commissioner Atahiru Jega warns Nigerians. This is Plus Politics, and I am Mary Anacon. Mild drama played out in the country over the weekend as the ruling party, the APC, had its party congress. Some of the intrigues that hallmarked the congresses are violent shootings, which claimed one life and injured many in Ekiti, parallel exercises in Lagos and Ogun, bickering in Akwa Ibom, Osun, and Delta, among other states. In Rivers State, previously, Senator Magnus Abe had urged supporters to boycott Saturday's nationwide ward congresses of the party, citing indiscriminate issuance of nomination forms. He also accused Amina Gamawa, head of the team selling the nomination forms in Rivers State, of dumping fairness and equity to share the forms to predetermined party leaders to the exclusion of others, especially his supporters. Well, joining us to discuss this is Senator Magnus Abe. Thank you very much, Senator Abe, for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Great. Just as I started and I stated that there has been, the weekend was a very intriguing one with, the APC going ahead with its congresses, and we can see all of the pockets of violence that was, a resultant effect of that Congress. We've seen parallel congresses, and of course, in your state, you have also spoken about the fact that there was no equity and there was no fair play. But before we get to Rivers State, let's talk about the APC in general. I'd like to start by asking, and you can choose how to answer this question: is the APC in trouble?
No, I don't think so. If you have been a close watcher of Nigerian politics, partisan politics over the years, you will discover that there's really nothing different about what is happening in the APC when you compare it to what has always happened in political parties in this country. The truth of the matter is that Nigerian politicians are not Democrats. Nobody, most of the people who are in politics in this country they don't like the idea of submitting themselves, their aspirations, and whatever to the dictate of the majority. So before any contest is held in this country, the average politician will do whatever they can to achieve a predetermined end. And I think that is at the bottom of all the crises we have whenever we are to do anything that is electoral in nature. So it's not something that is limited to the APC. It doesn't matter anywhere you bring Nigerians to vote, you will always have violence, you have drama, you have all these efforts and attempts to cheat one another and achieve a predetermined end. It's just the way we still are, and it's a culture that we need to do a lot more to change.
Why do we call ourselves a democratic state if you're saying that most of our politicians, and most, I'm guessing, is at least 70% of them, are undemocratic? And you're saying that even the way that you conduct your internal politics, and you're speaking for your party, you're saying that there's nothing democratic about it. So why are we saying that we're running a democracy? I mean, are we deceiving ourselves?
No, I think that like every human process, there's every need for us to benchmark our activities and our progress against a predetermined goal. I think the goal for democracy in this country will be for us to have hitch-free elections where anybody can, by whatever means, check the process to see that the process is not only fair, but whatever counts, they are accurate and verifiable. But the processes that we have in place presently will not lead us to that expected end. So I think what we need to do, instead of us to wring our hands and say, oh, we are not, are we joking, are we? No. I think the thing to do is for us to, as a country, as a people, try to actually imbibe the virtues of democracy and then do what we can to improve our processes. We can't keep using the same style of voting and counting that we have been using that clearly produces a lot of contradictions and confusion. So I think it's a question of improving our processes. But in terms of what we do now in the country, I think by and large, what you have seen in the APC congresses is what you see in Nigerian democratic space. So we need to improve on that.
I did have a conversation with someone from the APC and the PDP on the issue where the Speaker of the House of Representatives mentioned that they would want to include in the Electoral Act bill, direct primaries as opposed to any other form of primaries, and this would suffice for different political parties, which the PDP kicked against because they're saying that the constitution of the country should not dictate to political parties what they should do. But I'm saying this to say, the APC has also spoken about consensus candidates across board. And looking at the Congress that they went ahead to do over the weekend, we can see that most of the people who are having parallel congresses or had parallel congresses and the bickering that we've seen over the weekend, which has led the vice president to call for a meeting of sorts, shows that maybe the consensus candidates issue is not really realistic. But I'll ask you, how realistic is it if the APC is deciding that they will go with consensus candidates? Does this reflect the will of every person? Does this reflect the nods of everybody in the party, or this is what the National Working Committee is prescribing?
Well, the consensus option is part of the constitution of the party. So it's one of the means by which the party can arrive at a decision in an election of this nature. But like I said, it's all about process. Whether you're going to use consensus or you're going to vote or whatever, if the rights and the privileges of individual members are respected, and everybody knows that at the end of the day, if there is a vote, the result of that vote will be what will be accepted by everybody, then the incentive for the leaders to reach a consensus will exist. because nobody would actually be able to 100% predict the outcome of a vote. But where people already have the processes under control, and they know that if they proceed to an election, this is the result I have in my left hand. In such a situation, there's really no incentive for consensus for anybody to give up anything when you can take everything. You're at that point depending on the goodwill of individuals to accommodate one another and help one another. And sadly enough, that is not the spirit of politics in this country. So for the consensus option to work, the same kind of attention to detail, to process that we need to make the electoral option to work well is the same kind of attention to detail that we need that will make the consensus option to work. So if we don't, with all due respect, improve the quality and content of our democracy and have a situation where people can actually vote, votes are counted peacefully, and the respect of a peaceful vote respected by all actors, no matter their position or power in the society or in the party, then I'm afraid that this kind of thing that we have seen, we didn't just see it in the APC, we saw it in the PDP. They ended up in court in Anambra, and the general confusion that we see anytime we're doing something that involves voting in this country will continue to be part of our challenges moving into the future. But I believe that if we work hard and we are determined to actually bring about the expansion and purity of the democratic space in this country, it is something that is achievable if we work at it, and it can be achieved.
I spoke with the senior advocate of Nigeria on Friday before the Congresses, and I asked him what he thought about the position of the APC going into the Congress, knowing the internal crisis that the party is already facing. I'm sure that you know about the tribunal that dismissed the joint petition, of Jegede, which was of the PDP, and of course the Ondo State governor. You know the results of that judgment, and of course what the tribunal said. But Banire did say that if the issue was not settled and the APC went into the Congress, he somewhat predicted what happened over the weekend. Let's take a listen to what he said, and then when we come back, I'll have you speak on it.
Of course, right now, as we are talking, APC is supposed to start its congresses tomorrow. I can tell you without fear of contradiction, they have no register to do any congress. So they are saying they want to do consensus. But what consensus is supposed to do is that all parties must agree, must consent to the arrangement.
I'm sorry, I need to take you back. Did you say that the APC does not have a register?
As I'm talking to
the APC has been conducting, as we all know, it's been in the news, that they have been re-registering members. Where are they registering them? Where's the register?
No, registering is different from registrar. You think you can register and go away. Have you compiled it? Is it credible? Do people even have access to it? Who vouch for the integrity of it? Before you can have a transparent process, there must be a credible register endorsed by all the stakeholders. I can tell you without fear of contradiction that there is nothing like that on ground as I'm talking to you. It's even so bad that they do not even have congresses at the local government or what level that will conduct anything tomorrow. Most of the people that they even appointed or nominated as state congress committee team, most of them just arrived a day before today. And just take Lagos State, they had a stakeholder meeting to that. I'm talking to you, people have not even gotten form to fill. Nomination form, not let even screening, not let even knowing those who will conduct the respective elections in their various wards. The whole thing is just a sham.
So you can hear him. He's saying that the whole thing is a sham. Now, there are a few things that he said that we can tie to what you had said earlier on, that, the fact that people were not being consulted properly, there's no fairness, there's no justice, there's no equity. If the APC had done its due diligence within its members across the country, and don't forget there are calls for Buni to be sacked, by the way, because of the outcome of this judgment and the Ondo State governor, I mean, even Festus Keyamo had asked that he be sacked because he might pose problems. And for the APC not to have continuous court cases dragging in the future, he should step aside. And that's another case in itself. But with all of these things that are happening, I'm wondering to myself, why did the APC go ahead with this Congress? What was the urgency, the need for the urgency to have these Congresses, even with the issues that, the party has been facing?
Well, first of all, I think that the two issues that you're alluding to are totally separate from each other. They're not the same. If you're talking about the legal drama over the outcome of the Supreme Court judgment in Jegede against Akeredolu, that is a different issue. What people are saying in respect of that is that the party going ahead with its congresses in the light of the minority opinion in that judgment will imperil the outcome. That's a different thing. If you're talking about the preparedness of the party for this exercise and the steps that Banire was talking about that he felt needed to have been done before the congresses would hold, those are two separate issues. On the question of preparedness and all that, let me say this. We have taken about a year to get to this point where we are today trying to conduct these congresses since after the dissolution of the last National Working Committee of the party. Now, no matter what you do and you try to go and conduct any exercise in which Nigerian politicians are supposed to assemble and vote and produce a result, except the politicians themselves agree to respect the processes you have set in place, it will be impossible for you to conduct an exercise.
But what is the essence of an exercise if they're not going to respect it? It's an exercise in futility. So why do it if there is no agreement? Why? I mean, look at what we're having to face.
We have been doing this since 1999. There is not much different between what is happening now and what happened when the last executive was set up. It was the same thing. At the end of the day, you had an executive. If you're having general elections now in this country, it's going to be pretty much the same thing. At the end of the day, you have a result. So as long as we...
What is the change that the APC promised? What change are you bringing if you're doing the same thing that you accused the People's Democratic Party of doing, and we're seeing you do the exact same thing? What is the difference? And I keep asking, what's the difference between the APC and the PDP? Was it just to unseat President Goodluck Jonathan, and now it's same potato? Really, what was the change that was promised? I mean, we don't see it, do we?
You see, let me say this to all Nigerians. You keep talking about APC and PDP, but this is your country as well. And these people who are doing this thing are your children, they are your brothers, they are your sisters. It's the same children that were, some of the people that are taking part in politics today, 20 years ago when we started politics in this country, they were in the secondary school. And this is the culture that they're growing up with. What I'm talking about is that as a nation, we ought to work on the fabric of what we do. Change is not just about the words, it's about what we do. And change is always a painful process. Even within the All Progressives Congress, we have to battle and struggle for change. We cannot just say that because we're a party committed to change, therefore everything will change automatically. No.
But why promise something that you do not have? You obviously cannot give what you do not have. You're battling for change, but then you promise to give change. So why promise what you do not have? Again, when you keep talking, I mean, I totally agree with the fact that, yes, we as a society need to work to change, the course of things. But whatever happened to leading by examples? We're the ones who are following, we're the led. If the people who are leading us are making promises, they should be at least able to keep some of those promises so that we can at least have some level of trust. But there seems to be none of that in play.
No, you're not being factual, and you're also not being fair. First of all, the All Progressives Congress has done a lot as a government to try to bring change to the political process in this country. There is no denying that. The whole issue of introducing direct primaries as an option to ensure fairness and all that is something that this party has championed. But what I'm saying is that the All Progressives Congress is a political party. Magnus Abe is an individual. So if the party says something and Magnus Abe gets up to go and sabotage what the party has set out to do or do something different, these are individual actors across the country. And these actors are Nigerians. So it doesn't matter where you take them to. If this is what they believe and this is how they behave, that is how they're going to behave. The only way we are going to curb this kind of excesses on the part of our political actors and leaders is for us to deliberately work hard to clean up the processes and make it impossible for people to predetermine or try to predetermine the outcome of an election. If you find out, for example, that bringing thugs to the venue of an election and beating up people will not give you the desired result, politicians are not going to waste their time bringing thugs to the venue. They are going to concentrate on convincing the voters to follow what they want. But if you have a system where you bring thugs and you can get a result, you write a result and it will be sustained and all that, then people will go and pursue those shortcuts to give them the desired advantage. I think that what we need to concentrate on now within the party is to learn from some of the mistakes that we are making, improve our processes, and try to digitalize some of the processes that we use in our elections. If we do that, I am sure that as the system continues to improve substantially over time, the behavior of our key actors will also improve. That's where I think we need to go. I think that capitalizing on the blame game, talking about politicizing the challenges within our polity, which spreads across everywhere, is not going to get us to where we need to go. Where we need to go is to get to a place where our processes will be stronger than those who want to undermine it. For example, in the bank, every day the bank is improving its anti-forgery and fraud technologies to try to deter those who would like to take money that does not belong to them. And 9 times out of 10, they succeed, you know. So I think that if the political parties will also concentrate on improving the political process, and every time we do it, we do something that shows that we have learned a lesson from what we did before, and therefore this particular one will no longer be done this way. I believe that over time, the electoral system and the political system itself will improve. Without internal democracy in the party, without the respect for the rights of members, without the respect for the outcome of democratic elections imbibed into anybody, the whole exercise of democracy in this country will continue to be in trouble.
I really like your optimism, Senator. It's refreshing. But you said I wasn't being factual. Let's talk about facts. Recently, we talked about electronically transmitting our election results, and you saw the position of the Senate. And you're talking about the fact that we're not being fair to the fact that the APC is bringing change, or that they have brought some change about. This is the most change that Nigerians have been hopeful for. We've been hoping that at some part of our elections will be free, fair, and credible. But we saw majority of our senators, your former colleagues, who said no to electronically transmitting the results. We're still waiting on the House of Representatives on that note, hoping that they would be able to, change things. There's so many things. And you just started the conversation by saying that this is how we've done electioneering, or this is how internal party politics has been since 1999. And you're telling me that I'm not being fair as to judgments of what is happening within the political party. So please, what is the thing that you can point to make me hopeful that change has even occurred if we're doing the same thing over and over again and hoping for a change?
Well, let me be very, very clear about something. No matter what anybody would say, we have come a long way in the course of trying to improve our electoral processes and our internal party democracy. If you go back to before now, parties didn't even bother with, why are these congresses important? These congresses are important because they're the foundation by which the party is going to choose its candidates. But if you remember, before now, the leaders of the party simply sat down. If you remember in what happened in the MPN and PDP days, the leaders of the party simply sat down and picked up whoever they wanted and submitted the name to INEC, and that was the end of it, you know. But today, because of the various rules and laws that have been put in place over time, people know that that is no longer possible. And now, even when you submit the name of a candidate, you have all the whole issues of cogent and verifiable reasons, you can't change them and all that. There is a lot that has happened in the system that has brought us to where we are today. And those are part of the improvements that are taking place. You see, improvement in a system is not, it's like a child that is growing up. If you watch the child every day, you will not notice that something is changing. But if you travel, after 5 years, you come back and see a child, you see that the child is taller, the child is bigger, the child has grown. So that is what is happening to our democracy. Today, we are having a debate about electronic transmission of results. We didn't have this debate 10 years ago. We didn't have it 20 years ago, but we have it today. So that's where we are now. The desire to improve, the knowledge that we must improve. Everybody knows that what we're doing needs to be done better. And even the senators that you're saying disagreed, they did not disagree over the fact that this was not necessary, or this was not desirable, or this will not help the elections to get better. I think the fulcrum of what they were disagreeing over was to say whether the technological environment in the country is sufficient to,
and INEC
to
responded.
support the electronic transmission of results.
But
which
INEC
has clearly come out to say it is something that they have done and something that they can do. So I believe that at the end of the day, that issue will be resolved in favor of a better process and not against.
Finally, let's go to River State. I want to close on that note. Now, the APC in River State has had its fair share of troubles. Like I've said, different states experiencing problems here and there. Now, you have asked your followers not to participate in that Congress. But what is the fate of those people who have not participated? Because it looks like they're going to lose out. And I'm going to take you back to 2019, where the APC lost out on all of its tickets, during the elections, making the opposition to have the upper hand. What is the fate of the APC in River State with all of this that's happening within the party? How does the party hope to consolidate and be on its feet to be able to, take on the PDP come 2023?
Well, first of all, it's a misrepresentation of facts to say that I asked my supporters to boycott the congresses. That is not correct. They were not allowed to participate because they could not get access to forms. They were not registered and revalidated. Like Muse said, we had no knowledge of where the register was and which register was going to be used. We simply were shut out of the process. Now, across this country, let me give you the example of River State. In River State, you have over 8,000 and something ward positions in the party at the ward level, which is the elections that were going to be held. Now, if each of these positions are being contested by, say, a minimum of 2 persons, you have over 16,000 potential nominees to take part in the election. Now, the committee that came to the states to sell forms to members directed that each of these persons who intend to take part in that Congress should come physically to the party office and identify themselves before they are given one form. That means that a minimum of 16,000 people would have been expected. Now, when they got to the secretariat, no supporter of the minister came to the secretariat to get the form. All the people who came from all across the state were those who are, quote and unquote, seen as not being part of the minister's faction. And so they spent the night there. They had paid people to give them forms. They went to the banks. They paid. The party had said that those who went to the Supreme Court the last time who were not given forms should be given forms based on their old receipts. When they brought the receipts, the people giving the forms said the receipts were faded. They have to go back to the bank to revalidate it. The roads were blocked. It was just one frustration after another, and it was totally impossible for them to get the forms because the intention was that they should not be given the forms to participate in the process.
Do you think
that
that
is
do
one.
You think that those,
Two,
those...
I'm coming, Mariam. Now, even before that, the party at the national level had directed, based on the report of its own registration and revalidation appeal committee that came to Rivers State, had directed that the registration and revalidation exercise in Rivers and 5 other states should resume. The committee that was directed to come and oversee the registration of members refused to show up. The party now directed another committee to go back to Rivers State and carry out that exercise. That committee was never publicly authorized by the party to do so. And so while members of the party were in the state mobilizing for registration and revalidation, people arrived to begin to sell forms for congresses. So the entire process from the beginning was designed to shut out people. My asking my supporters not to go there is because if they had gone there, the outcome of it would have been violent.
So do you think that you're being targeted?
They have no forms, they have no means of participating in the process. What would they be doing there?
So do you think that your people, your followers, and the people who are opposed to, in quote, the minister's faction, do you think that you're being targeted? Do you think that it is a deliberate thing from the national to shut those members of your party out?
Well, it is clear that there are some godfathers and some super members who are stronger than the party. Because how else do you explain a situation where on the 14th of July, the caretaker committee, the extraordinary convention committee of the party, issued a public directive that was contained in a public statement. And this was casually and deliberately discarded by the powers that be. And then again, when you get up to the point of the registration, despite all that was happening, the caretaker committee was unable to tell the lady to give these people time and at least give them forms. But later that night, they sent 100 forms to me. How do you send 100 forms to me when you had insisted that everybody who is contesting must come to the secretariat by themselves? And then 12 hours before the beginning of the election, you send me 100 forms. How did they get those 100 forms? Where else in this country did you see thousands of people troop to any party secretariat anywhere in Nigeria to go and collect forms one by one to take part in a congress that was merely 2 days away? Where did that happen in Nigeria? The only place that happened was in Rivers State. What? So when people do things that are wrong, you do things to oppress other people, you do things without any recourse to any sense of justice or history. This was the same thing that was done that resulted in the case that went up to the Supreme Court. So, it is the same style. Nothing has changed.
Okay.
That is being brought back in 2021. So some of these questions you need to ask the leader of the party in the state, and that's the Minister of Transportation.
I was going to close on that note. I was going to ask, so why are you still in the APC if you feel this oppressed, if you feel like an outsider, if you feel that someone is deliberately trying to push you out? Again, do you think that the Minister of Transportation is targeting you as a person? In closing, we need to go.
First of all, I joined the APC voluntarily. I have a copy of the party constitution. I was a member of the Nigerian Senate when I decamped from the PDP on the floor of the Senate. That was not a little sacrifice. I almost lost my life to establish the APC in Rivers State. And so nobody, let me repeat for emphasis, nobody has the right or the power to push me out of the party, and I'm not going anywhere. I will stay in the party, we will fight for our rights, and we will ensure that the right thing is done in the All Progressives Congress in Rivers State. And anybody who is sensible should realize that by now, it will be impossible to overcome the determination of members of this party to see that the right thing is done. Nobody can drive over the rights of others and believe that it will be business as usual. It is not going to be.
Well, Senator Magnus Abe, thank you very much for speaking with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all for staying with us and being part of the conversation. We'll take a short break, and when we return, former chairman of INEC, Tahiru Jega, is in the news again, and this time is advising Nigerians not to vote for the PDP and the APC. Stay tuned.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
Hello and welcome. It's Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime. Nimasa This Week is brought to you by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Statutorily mandated to ensure that there is regulation and promotion of matters affecting our waters. NIMASA bears responsibility for search and rescue, shipping development, and ship registration.
NIMASA This Week, the voice of maritime, showing on this channel.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Don't concern yourself too much with what others think, because that will slow your own progress down.
If you've not worked in corporate world and you decide to start off your own thing, except you obviously get like the required skills, you definitely would have a lot of glitches along the way.
This is my entrepreneurship journey. The greatest problem I have are dedicated staff.
You see,
But that's
are
a
willing
problem.
to get to the job before the job starts. God forbid they resume at 8. They will literally fall down and die.
There's a lot of entitlement that comes up in marriages, both
But
on
if
the
you're married
side
to me,
of
I'm so
men
entitled
and
to you.
women. No, I'm not saying we're not entitled, and that's the honest truth. But I think that there's a lot of entitlement that sometimes comes in.
Your wife
No,
was there.
no.
She carried your baby. She sacrificed her life. Made
I
sacrifices
wouldn't
in the
shred
workplace.
it if this
And
was a man.
Now you're not telling me 5 years into the marriage you need a prenup, guy. Check
Something,
yourself.
there must be a reason for something.
A former chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Atahiru Muhammad Jega, has urged Nigerians not to vote for the ruling All Progressive Congress, the APC, and the People's Democratic Party, PDP, henceforth. He cited their alleged failure to bring the desired growth and development in Nigeria within the past 20 years, adding that it was high time Nigerians look for a credible alternative. The university don also stated that he has joined the People's Redemption Party, PRP, to look for ways to help Nigeria. Well, joining us to discuss this is Opunabo Inko-Tare, a former special advisor on media and publicity to the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, and Tanko Yunusa, who is the national chairman of the National Conscience Party, NCP. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Yunusa, because you obviously are not a member of the PDP nor the APC. And Professor Tahiru Jega used to be the man that was in charge of our elections. And today he's talking about steering the ship in a different direction. Is this a case of, just like the APC has responded, saying that he's trying to float a political party or trying to push his political ambitions? Is this a man who's trying to push his own personal political ambitions, or is he stating fact?
No, I don't think it's about personal promotion of his own status as a person. Professor Jega, as a person, anywhere, any day, is a product to be used for any political purposes in this country. That one is not in doubt. So if he wants to, anywhere he can go to, he will be a very valuable tool for the development of the country. But the truth about it is that the way in which Nigeria is being run by the existing political parties had made everybody to start wondering if truly the democratic system that we want is being practiced accordingly. Remember, for a very long time, a lot of us have been complaining about how whoever finds himself or herself in position of power use the apparatus of the state resources to emasculate all others. Truly speaking, it's not about the PDP or APC, but what we've seen so far is that any political party, except of course if it's actually ideologically entrenched on the ground, it's much easier for those one. But any of the other political parties try to emasculate every other person. I mean, take a look at it. The recent most annoying situation that we find ourselves is when we are talking about transmission of election voting system. To transmit this electoral voting system, very simple. The people in the house belonging to both political parties are playing down on it. Majority of them are only interested in their own political parties, how they take advantage of it against others. That makes it nauseating to everybody. And so the leadership so far has left a lot of things unanswered for. And so it's not Jega that is only calling for this particular situation. A lot of Nigerians are disenchanted, they are dismayed, they are totally disillusioned, and the system has not provided enough room for all other political parties to triumph. and then meet their goals and achievements. Because if we have opportunity for all other political parties to have one election in this country, we will have had a robust electoral system. But rather, one person will move from one political party this morning, the next evening is another political party, and you will be allowed to run another political party platform. That is treasonable offense against the people that he runs election against.
Okay.
So really, for us, we think it is time for the electorate to start looking elsewhere so that we can have a more acceptable democratic system in our country.
Okay. Let me come to you, Opunabo. It's interesting to have this conversation because the PDP and the APC seem to be the biggest parties in Nigeria, and the who's who all belong to both sides of the divide. But then, just like UNISA has said, the smaller parties have the short end of the stick and sometimes don't even smell the cake, not to talk of eating it. And one would say, if Professor Jega is going to a smaller political party, does it mean that the people who also are in those political parties are on the straight and narrow? Really, why should they be an option for Nigerians if there's a particular saying that politics in Nigeria is a dirty game, whether you belong to the big party or the small party? Is it about political parties, or is it about us changing as human beings, as Nigerians, for the best?
Well, the truth is, it has to do with the individual, because the party is populated by individuals. And unfortunately, a lot of us, I say a lot of us because we're all politicians, a lot of us have this vast understanding. We don't really appreciate what politics is all about. That politics is all about to serve. But we go there for gastric reasons. We go there for selfish reasons, autocentric reasons. And that is why we are where we are today. Like Doc rightly said, how can any sensible man talk of the advanced to electronic transmission of results? And more so, because they are hankering, they are in a hurry to perpetuate themselves in office, they forgot to realize that they must first of all amend Section 78 before you even talk. Because whatever amendment you do, whatever electoral act you come up with, will not fly unless that is amended. Because every other law is puny, is inferior to the provisions of the Constitution, to the extent of the inconsistency. So these are the kind of characters we have in office. And so it has nothing really to do with the political parties. It has to do with the individual. Having said that, most political parties in the country don't have ideology. Most political parties are just formed out of quotas or are formed as springboards. Let me form this. I don't have the chance in this political party. Therefore, I can go ahead and form another political party where there is likelihood of bringing my dreams to fruition.
And this makes me always pop the question of, I mean, really. What are the ideologies of our political parties? Because the truth is, none of our political parties have ideologies.
I told you, I said most of them don't have ideology. They are bereft of ideology. They form these parties, I will just give you the reasons. They form these parties because they don't have chances in the bigger parties, or they form these parties because they see it as a springboard or as a negotiation body. That is why most people form these political parties. Very few form political parties with the interest of the people at heart. Very few. And in most cases, unfortunately, sorry, those who get on my gen, that's the kind of country we live in. There's power houses now, but the judge will do so much. So most of these political parties, these bigger political parties, already have the money because they have been in office and they have stolen more than enough. So they have the money and they make it almost impossible for these other political parties to take over. That is why you have a lot of parties conflating to form the APC, because it was difficult for any party to oust the PDP. The PDP have been in office, they have amassed so much wealth, they have their tentacles, they have the clout. So the parties have to come, they have to melt to form the APC. But the question is the APC different from the PDP? It's an old wine in a new wine skin. There is no difference. Most APC members were PDP members. Some of the PDP members were APC members. Some CPC members. So there is actually no difference because you cannot bequeath what you do not have. And most of them, look at how would you defend a governor who moves from a particular political party to another political party? How do you think he's a governor? So whatever dividends of democracy that is expected to trickle down, he is responsible. It is his duty to ensure that it trickles down. Now he is living because he has started the second step and he wants to go for presidential ambition, or he has a senatorial ambition, and he believes that the party in office is going to be the easiest to bypass for him to achieve his aim. So most of these our politicians are bereft of ideology. They are only in office just for selfish reasons.
Okay. Because we're almost out of time, Mr. Yunusa, one last question. You just help me answer it quickly in a sentence. We saw, I don't know if you heard the reports, that there's been serious voter apathy, and we saw that in 2019. We saw a level of voter apathy, but what we have seen in the Lagos and Ogun local government elections is the worst that we have ever seen. It's the lowest of lows. And we're complaining about 2023 and what would happen. What's the guarantee that Nigerians are even interested in the politics of Nigeria anymore? I mean, we seem to have lost trust in the electoral process and the people that, you know, the system throws up. So even if Jega is asking us to look elsewhere, where do we muster that trust from again, you know, as we head to 2023 quickly?
Exactly. We need to get the fundamentals right. Remember in 2019, we have registered voters according to Wakomita. We have 88 million people registered. Only 30 million registered voters voted. So what you saw in Lagos and that of Ogun is a replica of the fact that people lost trust in the process. The only way we can get the trust of the people back is making sure that the laws show that they can get their votes credibly well, i.e., making sure that whenever they vote, that they are sure that their votes count. Whenever they vote, they are sure that when it counts the vote, it is equal to the people, the vote that they've seen. Just like what we are talking about, the electronic transmission of voting. They also want to be sure that the person that they voted for is the right candidate that demands. That's when we start building trust in the system.
Right. We have to go, gentlemen. I want to thank you very much, Opunabo Inko Taria and Tanko Yunusa. Thank you for being part of the conversation. We are out of time.
Okay. God bless you and God bless Nigeria.
All right. Well, thank you all for being part of the conversation. We'll quickly take a look at what Nigerians have to say about their voting selections come 2023. And I want to thank you all for being part of the show. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
I prefer PDP.
Neutral. I don't really partake in any party like PDP or APC because the way I see in this country, in fact, everything have turned upside down. It's not even all about the vote, the party I'm voting for or whatever. It's just, I believe it's just human citizens. The way they are doing things is not really proper. But I'm tired of Nigeria.
I've never done it. Even if any of my relation contest, I will not vote. I've never voted and I will not vote as far as the way politics are being run in this country presently. So I'm not going to vote for anybody.
See, the thing is, there's no need to waste your time in whether you want to vote for PDP or APC. See, it's just, this party is just like one simple thing, like PDP first as an apple, and the individuals that ate that apple went back to APC because APC said we have a new apple. So they went to finish APC apple now. Now PDP has bought another new apple. So the APC guys now going back to PDP to start the new apple that they have. See, the thing is, if the electoral, what are they calling it? The electoral bill, if it's not being passed, for them to send results electronically, forget it. Voting is as useless as anything. Any youth that will be going out to vote is wasting his time.
I'll prefer a neutral party, if there is. I don't want either APC or PDP.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires,